What if the thing holding your photography back right now isn't your camera, isn't your lens, and it's definitely not your location, but something much simpler than any of that? Because here's what I learned after more than a decade of doing this. The photographers who improve the fastest aren't the ones with the best gears or the ones who travel the most, but they're the one doing the small, boring, unglamorous things over and over again. And I know this is not sexy, nobody really wants to hear that. However, the truth is that the foundation of great photography isn't one big breakthrough moment. It's habits, and often the stupidly simple ones that everybody can do. So in this video right here, my friend, I'm going to share with you 5 of them that changed my photography forever. All right, so here's something that I think about a lot. And it's not whether like you have a camera. Most photographers, they have a camera. It is whether you actually, bring it. Because there's always a reason not to, I mean, I went on this hike recently with 2 of my small kids, and I genuinely was like, how do I explain? I looked at my gear and I was like, do I really have to bring this? Because I was already carrying snacks, a little chair, and all of the other stuff that the kids need, and I wasn't there on a photography trip. That is like, if I were on a photography trip, of course, but it's just a little hike with my kids. However, I decided to throw it in the bag anyway, and also, decided then to strap on a tripod on the outside, because you never know, The point that I'm trying to make here is that I was just so happy that I did, because the light in the forest, it was doing something that I wasn't expecting at all. It was quite harsh this day. That's why I was contemplating whether to bring the camera or not. But under the trees, it was just these gorgeous pockets of lights everywhere, and I got some of my favorite photos of my kids ever. It was just them 2 in the forest, being happy and being curious, and then we walked to this waterfall as well, and those photos were also super good, and the tripod, it came in really handy, because I managed to take a little, selfies of me. I placed the camera on the tripod, I framed up the shots and got some super cool photos. Now, if I had left the camera at home or in the car, which I almost did, then these photos would not have existed. And those memories, I wouldn't have captured them either. And that is really the entire habit. It's not something big, complicated. It's just bring your camera with you, even when it feels like an overkill, because you never know what the light is doing. You never know what moment is going to show up. And if the camera isn't there with you, you're not capturing any photos, my friend. Plus, carrying your camera with you more often than feels necessary makes everyday life the perfect training ground for your photography. You're waiting for that one friend who's always late? No problem, no need to be frustrated. Now you can practice your photography. So, my friend, the first habit is this. Take your camera with you more often than feels necessary. But here's the thing. You can bring your camera everywhere. You can get all of the reps in the world. But if you don't do what I'm about to dive into next, most of these reps are just going to waste. By the way, if you want to become a better photographer, then I send out free weekly emails. They're short, fun, easy to read, and packed with value. If that sounds interesting, it's totally free. You can find links in the description down below. All right, so I'm going to be honest with you. I think that I'm one of those weird photography breeds that enjoy the editing part a little bit more than the photography part. But the thing is, I've noticed that a lot of photographers, they treat editing like it's an optional thing, like it's just there to fix the mistakes or slap on a preset and then call it a day, done, finito. But to me, photography and editing are 2 completely different things that work really well together. You see, when I'm out shooting, that's where I'm capturing what I'm seeing. I'm of course talking about the composition, the light, the subject, and so on and so on. And I'm trying to get all of that as right as I can in camera. But the editing, that's where I bring out what I felt, the emotions that I had in my Icelandic body when I was at the location. Now, here's the habit underneath the habit, the inception habit, so to speak. You see, editing isn't just about making the photo look good. It's also one of the best teachers that you're probably not using. You see, when you're sitting down in the chair and you're editing your photos, you are staring at them for a long time. And if you put your critical eyeglasses on, like I like to say, then you will start seeing things. Maybe the foreground is a little bit too heavy because you were just slightly too low. Maybe if you shifted the angle just a tiny bit more to the right, the light would have hit the subject so much better. The thing that I'm trying to get to here is that you wouldn't spot any of that if you weren't actually sitting there and staring at your photos properly. And the cool thing is that these observations, they follow you into your field the next time that you're out shooting. And for me, they're just sitting there in the back of my head, and suddenly I'm thinking about them when I'm out taking photos. Oh, wait, I remember now, when I was editing the photo last time, the foreground, it was just way too low. Maybe I'll angle it a little bit up. Oh, I should wait here a little bit. How is the light hitting it? Should it go to the side? Like, yeah, okay, I'll move a little bit to the side. I remember all of the mistakes that I saw before, and I'm not going to do these mistakes again. You get the idea. And that, my friend, is how editing makes you a better photographer even when you're not editing, because it allows you to look at your photos with a critical eye and really spot the mistakes and see what you can do better next time. So, my friend, habit number 2 is to commit to editing your photos, not just to make them look better, but also as a way to view your photos with a critical eye so you can spot the mistakes. And of course, do better next time, else this would make sense, you know. However, the truth is, none of this actually starts to kick in until you first start doing something that most photographers skip entirely. And it happens before you even press the shutter. Habit number 3. All right, so many photographers, especially beginner photographers, when they see something cool, they just, raise the camera and they shoot, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you see something, you react, and you take the photo, click, 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 click. But there is a small thing that separates good photos from the great ones, and it happens in the few seconds before you press the shutter. Now, I want to show you 3 photos here because they all tell the same story in very different ways. The first one is in this forest that I shot near to where I live here in northern Sweden. I knew about this little rolling hill there in the forest, and I had this idea that if I put the camera at the bottom of it and then I shoot wide angle upwards, the trees are gonna look freaking massive, like larger than life feeling, So the first thing I did is that I started by walking the scene. I mean, just walking around, checking it out, and not taking any photos yet. And by doing so, I found this little path that you can see that could act as a leading line. And then I started taking a few test shots and checking the frame. And then I moved around a little bit. And once I was happy with how everything looked, I set the focus, put the camera on timer mode, and then I walked into the scene myself. Now that photo, my friend, didn't happen by accident. It happened because I gave it a few minutes to think before I committed to the shot. Now, the second photo, that is this lighthouse. And I spotted it while driving in Iceland, and I immediately stopped the car. I ran out, I went low with the lens here to get this beautiful foreground, and then I took some test shots. However, I quickly realized that even if I liked the frame, I had to wait quite a lot because there was this steam from the geothermal energy plant nearby, which was just blowing through massively, and I needed to wait for the perfect moment to create this cool composition where we get the lighthouse, but the steam is all around it, so it's not covering. Plus, the light was a little bit weird this day, so I also had to wait for the light to hit the lighthouse as well, which it didn't end up doing quite a lot, but at least something which I could then bring out more in editing later. I've talked about that story before. But the moral of the story, I had to wait here and I had to take a bunch of different shots, and eventually I got one that just looked sick. Planning. And then, my friend, the third photo, that's this yellow boat here in Norway. And that one is kind of pure instinct. You see, my lady was driving, and out of the rear of my eye, I saw this man about to push this yellow boat onto the fjord. And I just thought the contrast of that yellow boat against that calm blue mountain, calm water, not calm mountain. The mountains can be calm too, I think. But the calm water and the blue mountains, it would just look, sick. So I asked my partner to just find a place to stop right away. And then I ran out of the car, grabbed my camera, and I started to take photos. And I immediately spotted this place where the mountains, they were creating this perfect leading line and the reflections as well. And I knew that I had just a few seconds to get this photo or get the boat in that frame. So I found it, and then I waited for the guy to spot. I spotted him there. He's going into the frame. And then once he was there on the perfect spot, I click, took the photo, and thought to myself, fuck, fuck yeah. Now here's the thing, this Norwegian boat photo, it felt like pure instinct. And it kind of was, but instinct in photography, it isn't something that you're born with. It's something that you build. Every time that you pause, every time that you ask yourself, okay, what is the subject here? How do I make it stand out? Is there a leading line here maybe? Is there a frame? What is the light doing? Where should I position myself? And all of these questions that we ask ourselves, then you are training that instinct. And eventually you don't need to have a big checklist in your head anymore. You just notice it, you see it, you know what you can do and what the scene needs and how you're gonna make a beautiful, beautiful photo. So the third habit is this, my friend. Before you shoot, give yourself a few seconds to think. Walk the scene, take a few test shots, move around a little and ask yourself the questions. Because the best composition is rarely the first one you see. And the more that you practice asking, the faster it becomes in finding the best compositions. Until one day you just stop in cars on the middle of the side in the Norwegian fjord, telling your lady, hey babe, I'm gonna take a banger, running out, cling, 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 and a banger is born. But here is the boring truth. You can have the most perfectly composed shot in your head, and you walk the scene and you do all of these things that we just talked about, but it can still fall completely flat. Because there is this one thing that will make or break the photos before you even think about the composition. And most people aren't paying nearly enough attention to it. By the way, if you want to actually practice these habits with real feedback and real accountability, then come join us in the Darkroom. It's an online community for photographers and built and run by me, and it's a curated space, which means there is an application process because I handpick members personally. Now, I'm genuinely very protective of this space. I pour a lot of time and effort into it, and I want this to be a place where people that are serious about photography can come and get better together. And as I said, I'm in there every single day giving personal feedback on your photos, so if you want direct access to me, then this is where you find it. On top of that, we do monthly challenges, which is designed to push our photography further and get a little bit out of our comfort zone. We do weekly live hangouts, we do workshops, and of course, all members get full access to all of my courses and digital products. If that sounds like your kind of place, then there's a link down in the description where you can apply to join. Habit number 4. So my friend, let me ask you something. Have you ever been out shooting and thought, wow, the light is just not doing anything good today. It's pretty boring, it's pretty flat, and nothing is really working. But here's the thing that I've learned after years of shooting outdoors. The light is almost always doing something. You just have to know what to look for. Now, the two basic things that I always ask myself when I arrive somewhere is, of course, what is the quality of light here? Is it soft and diffused, or is it harsh and directional? And then, where is the light source coming from? Because how you position your subject based on where the light is completely changes everything. It changes the depth, the contrast, the mood. And these two questions, they sound super simple, and they're like incredibly simple, but many people, they never ask them. Now, with this in mind, then let me show you this photo right here. I actually took this on my phone because I didn't have my camera with me that day. Naughty, naughty. Habit number 1, should have kept it in my mind. But I spotted this scenario, and I just knew immediately that this is gonna look freaking unreal and incredible. So what's happening here was this. In one direction, you have this really dark and dramatic and moody sky. It's almost like it was about to pour rain. I think it was blowing, about to come over us, pouring rain. But just about 45-degree angles in this direction, which the angle that you can't see, the sky is clear, it's sunshine, and that means that the tree was getting this beautiful directional light hitting it from the side, making it glow and giving it this punchy, contrasty look. While behind it, everything was just dark and dramatic. You understand the scenario that we're in? Dark and moody on one side, but on the other side, it is clear sky, which is just beaming this beautiful light onto the subject. And this makes an unreal scenario. Because if it's just overcast and moody, the subject isn't getting this beautiful, harsh light on it, and it becomes much flatter, But we got both there at the same time, which creates a really interesting photo. And then on top of that, the colors work perfectly. We have this golden yellow autumn tree against this dark, moody blue sky. It's simple, elegant, and just so powerful. You have contrasty colors there. All of this is just about knowing what the light does and then recognize it when you see it when you're out in the field. And maybe you even have to wait for it. My friend Mats Peter Iversen, he's a fantastic photographer and a YouTuber. I think many of you guys know who he is. He has a fantastic example of this. You see, he posted this reel a few weeks back, this Instagram reel, and he's showing the same tree, same location. It's just 5 minutes apart, and the photos are completely different. The first photo, the clouds is covering the sun, giving you this flat light. It's okay, nothing spectacular. But the second photo, the sun comes out. It's a low angle, which gives this incredible contrast, and suddenly the tree has this super cool three-dimensional Rembrandt kind of quality to it. The shape, depth, and drama is just freaking, I don't know, this is why I love photography. You have the same trees, same locations, 5 minutes, and the light does something completely different, and the photo is completely different. And you see, this habit, it isn't just about finding good light, it's about learning to read what the light is already doing around you. And sometimes it's just about, waiting a little bit. Because that little moment where the clouds part and the sun hits your subject just right, that's not something that you can force, but it's absolutely something that you can be ready for. So my friend, the fourth habit is this: before you shoot, ask yourself what the light is doing and where it's coming from, and then figure out if you need to move or if you need to wait. Because the difference between a flat photo and then just freaking stunning one is sometimes just 5 minutes of patience. But here's something funny. All of these habits, they assume you have your camera with you at all times. However, what if I told you that one of the most powerful things you can do for your photography doesn't even require a camera at all? Habit number 5. So this last habit is probably the one nobody talks about on the entire interweb. And it's also completely free. No camera needed, no gear, no nothing. You see, I live in northern Sweden. And if you know anything about northern Sweden, it's just forests and forestry forest. I mean, everywhere you have pine trees, and it's just as far as your eye can see. And it's not always the easiest place to make interesting photos, However, the thing is, I walk around here a lot, especially with the strollers. I mean, I have 3 little kids and one of them is a baby. And I'm constantly looking, constantly thinking, and constantly asking myself, like, what is the light doing here? Are there any interesting subjects around? Is there composition here somewhere in this scene? I'm just playing this game in my head to see if I can spot composition or what is the light doing, without having my camera. And sometimes I find something. Basically what I'm doing, I am practicing photography in my head without even having a camera. And this is something you can do anywhere. You can be in the most boring location, you're waiting for the doctor or, the tooth doctor. That is not English word. The dentist, that is the English word. And then you can be like, are there some interesting things I can photograph here? Maybe this person looks interesting. And you're building compositions and frames in your head. So my friend, the 5th habit is this: practice photography without your camera. Train your eyes constantly, take mental notes, and build the frames the way you think. Think about what is the light doing here and all of the questions that we just talked about. However, here's the thing. These 5 habits will absolutely change your photography, no doubt about it. But there is this one thing underneath all of them that finally makes everything clicks so much faster. And it took me freaking 10 plus years to figure it out. So I made an 11-minute video explaining it in depth, and you can watch it right here.